it's my time. I'm going to use it how I want it. For the next 15 minutes, we're just going to scream F Antifa. No, I'm joking. Here's back to your regularly scheduled program. Here's Taylor.
Hey guys, it's Taylor Johnatakis again. How you doing?
Hi, Taylor.
I have really appreciated being able to call in so often and have my voice be heard out there. It's been a little bit of a wild time here in the January 6th pod the last 24 hours or so. And it's really interesting to watch all the different dynamics that go on here. But, you know, one thing that I'm constantly thinking about is where do we get our examples?
Right.
I hear you guys talking. What are you saying again? Say that a little more clearly.
That is mosquitoes across the street yelling at us. So just continue.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things that, you know, I've always found is looking into the scriptures, and I know that a lot of people have different religious beliefs and things like that, but when I look at the life of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, one of the things I see is he's going through a court case. If you go read the Beatitudes, that very, you know, where Christ kind of does the Sermon on the Mount, the first thing he talks about is going through trial. He says, agree with thine adversary quickly, lest he take you to the judge, who takes you to the officer, who puts you in jail until the debt is paid in full. And a lot of times what happens is we spend so much time disagreeing and fighting over inconsequential things that we lose sight of the real mission that we have here. Right. What's happening with January 6th is we have the largest case of entrapment the U.S. government has ever seen. And I'm not going to make a claim right now at this stage that the federal government trapped us. The left would say that Donald Trump entrapped us. But at the end of the day, when I was at the Capitol on January 6th, as I was leaving, I had the distinct impression that I had just walked into a bear trap. And that is what really happened, right? And so to think about the mission that we have here, the mission is to shine a light on this system. The mission that we have is to shine a light on some of the injustices that happen inside of the judicial system, as well as the military or the prison industrial complex, right? And I think the January 6ers have done a lot of good. I mean, I know I'm grateful for the conditions we have here in the prison, in the jail. I keep calling it a prison, but here that we have in the jail, because of the people who've been here and have made their voices heard, and I'm super appreciative to them and to you guys for doing this. But one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that as we continue to go forward, everybody's got their own individual causes and individual issues, but we're all brothers and sisters in this. We are all being treated in a way that ultimately is not, that the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Right. When I think about a crime is defined in a certain way when you deprive another person of their rights. Okay, so when you injure another person and you deprive them of their rights, and it can be pretty varied how you do that. But Nietzsche once said that a criminal, once exposed to the criminal justice system, can no longer see the error of his ways. And the reason he said that is because as you go through this process, you know, your rights are violated more than you ever violated someone else's rights. Does that make sense?
Right.
And so we've got to kind of keep track of the fact that it's not just us, the January 6ers that are in here. It's everybody that is a victim of the prison industrial complex. I mean, this is a for-profit enterprise, and there's a reason why the United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world. There's a reason why the Department of Justice is a 98.2% conviction rate. It's because there are rights that are being violated, and I am a big believer that two wrongs don't make a right.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's just, it really isn't okay when a criminal violates someone's rights. The punishment has to be proportional, right? I mean, this is guaranteed in our constitutional. And it is interesting because they've done a good job of not outright torturing us. I mean, this isn't a, Saudi Arabian prison. I don't even know if they torture people necessarily, but I assume they do. Or let's go Iranian, right? This isn't an Iranian prison. This is still the United States of America. But at the same time, you know, the conditions here don't really make any sense. Like, I often wondered, is the punishment that I have to be away from my family, or is the punishment that my mattress is too thin and my back hurts? Is the punishment that I have to be away from my family and isolated society, or is the punishment to have a soy-based diet for the next couple of years, right? Like, what constitutes punishment in this system? And I think that that's a conversation that Americans need to start having, is what do we define as punishment? right? In my case, having me on home detention would have been a pretty significant punishment. But at this point, being in jail, and I've only been here a short time, this is like, holy cow. The officers that I was involved with on January 6th, all three of them said that I didn't hurt, harm, injure, or threaten them in any way. How is it possible that I'm here on assault charges and looking at 5 or 6 years in prison? That's just insanity that the people can stand for it. And so, you guys are doing such a great job raising awareness. I know that since I've been speaking with you guys on the visual, my family has been circulating these different visual streams and I don't know if you call them podcasts, and it's getting a wider audience. And I'm starting to get feedback from people going, wow, I didn't know that was happening, right? And so every voice that's heard raises awareness, and a rising tide raises all ships.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
So, yeah, you guys have been really great. I can't sing your guys' praises enough to your dedication in doing this. And sometimes there's just nonsense, right? I mean, you get 1,300 people in a group of charges like this, and you're going to have very diverse people with very diverse beliefs and very diverse ways about going about doing things. And I think it's important that we all try to keep focused on what we're here to do. We're here to get justice. We're here to get justice for the people that lost their lives on January 6th, Ashley Babbitt and the others. We're here to get justice for those of us that are here having our rights stripped away. We're defined in the dictionary as civilly dead right now. And, we need redemption is what we need. We need to be redeemed from this dark place. In the scriptures, a dark place was often the dungeon, and the word salvation means help in a dark place. We need some salvation. We need to be redeemed from this dungeon of a system where we're really, a lot of us, and I talk to everybody here, a lot of us feel in a certain way hopeless. The entire weight of the federal government has come down on us, not only individually, but collectively. And it will take the entire might of the American people to push back and say enough is enough. Not only has this system mistreated January 6ers, it's mistreated minority and disadvantaged communities for decades and decades now. And if it takes us going through this experience to be able to raise awareness and the little things like better diets, does the punishment really include a soy-based diet? You know what that does to a man's body after a year or two?
Exactly.
It wrecks us, Is that the punishment that the American people want? I don't think so. I don't think the American people see that. I think the American people know that prisons, the money for these prisons is not created by tax dollars.
No.
It's actually created by the prisoners themselves. When they're charged, there's a bond that's created that actually gets sold on the bond market. My bonds are being traded by Goldman Sachs and American Century Municipal Bond Fund. When you go purchase a municipal bond, you are literally paying the incarceration for somebody in many of those cases. So it's not like these are tax dollars that are being used.
Right.
These are literally bond dollars that are being created by the charges themselves, which, by the way, is why the government is incentivized to overcharge you.
Right.
Because by overcharging you, they overfund the accounts. And that's really, truly, actually what's happening. And so there's no reason why we couldn't have better food. There's no reason why we couldn't have adequate mattresses. There's no reason why every toilet in the jail shouldn't flush, right? These should be just givens, because the punishment is not to go to a jail cell with an unflushing toilet or to lay on a hard, flat cot. The punishment is being separated from society and having your liberty taken and your movement. Does that make sense?
Right.
And so, that we really have to, as Americans, continue to raise awareness and add our voices to those that are out there speaking, and not let the little petty things come between us. There's more than enough out there for us to be successful, and I think you guys know what I mean by the pettiness, because it sounds like you've already heard a couple people talking about it, but it really is petty. Yeah. There's more than enough support out there for everybody if we just look at this all as a whole thing and go, look, let's raise awareness. Let's support the people that are being punished. And more specifically, it's not the men in here that necessarily need the support. It's the families on the outside that really need the support. In my case, and I've mentioned this before, I've got 5 children still living at home, 17, 14, 11, 6, and 4. My wife has never worked. She's always been a homeschool mother, and now she's trying to put the pieces back together and trying to figure out how to continue on for who knows how long. So, we appreciate your guys' support. And a rising tide raises all the boats. The more that we talk and the more that we raise awareness, the more the system feels the pressure. Today I heard one of the guards coming in and talking to Scooter, and he said, I don't know if you're aware, but we have supporters on the outside. And he goes, no, I'm very aware that you guys have supporters on the outside. And I thought, what a great recognition, because most of the people in here outside of this pod, they do not have supporters on the outside. Right. I remember Judge Lambert in one of my hearings said that these cases are difficult for him because he's not used to sentencing people where they have rows of supporters that are breaking down in tears when the sentence is passed. Right? And that's because most of us are not really violent offenders. Most of us have lived good lives and don't really deserve what's happening. And I have a little bit of grace for these judges simply because they're trying to follow the law that the legislature gave them, right? And it requires these massive prison sentences. And unfortunately, these judges don't exercise their equity in reducing them down to what is reasonable. Right. And a lot of that, it's a travesty no matter what way you slice it. So before we get to the 1 minute mark, I do want to share my wife's Give, Send, Go. We didn't do any fundraising prior to my incarceration when I was remanded just 2 days before Thanksgiving. But her Give, Send, Go is givesendgo.com/Johnatakis Family Help. That's JOHNATAKIS Family Help. And on that Give, Send, Go, even if you don't want to donate money to my wife, that's absolutely fine. There's a link to a podcast that I did just after January 6th where I go over my entire experience. And the Department of Justice refused to put that podcast into my trial. And I think if you go take a listen to it, I've had a couple people send me messages and things like that have listened to it. They've been like, wow, I cannot believe that the Department of Justice, tried you and wouldn't put that in the trial. And when you listen to it, you kind of see why. Is they were really out on a limb. And even the sedition hunters, who I was the very first person that sedition hunters turned in, and they put on a Twitter post, they put #BeardedMirror, that's what they gave me a nickname, which is kind of ironic, because all I did in my trial was hold a mirror up to the system, right? So it just ended up, I didn't argue anything, I just held a mirror up to what they had, and what they had was very little. And they said, we were excited to bust a bunch of domestic terrorists. This man, referring to me, is not it. He's a hardworking person. He believes in God. He works hard every day. He's raising a family. He could be any one of our neighbors. And that's really the tragedy of J6 is normal Americans got caught in a bear trap that they didn't need to be in and didn't deserve to be in. And the people that should have been responsible for preventing that trap from being set may have been derelict in their duty. And I'm not making any claims or accusations, just kind of saying it as a generality. There were solutions that day that could have prevented every single one of us from having to go through this system. But at the end, I think it's good that we count our blessings and say, at least we can turn this bad thing into a good thing. And I have been a recipient of those that came before through the DC Gulag and the Northern Net facility and the other facilities, in the fact that they've been cleaned up. The food isn't as rotten as it used to be. I heard it was much worse even before. So all of that adds up, and you guys doing that vigil night after night, you guys just make the biggest difference in the world. So thank you so much.
We love you, Patriot. We got your back, Jack.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. There's a lot of noise out there tonight. We got cop cars. Did you say there's a counter protest going on there?
We got haters.
You got haters out there?
Yeah,
you know what?
You have 1 minute remaining.
You're doing something right when the haters show up.
That's right.
That means you're making a difference. That means you're making a difference.
That's right. We have sirens for Trump, so let's see.
That's awesome. Yep.
All right,
You guys
Taylor,
are the
you have a
best.
good night, and we will hear you at the anthem.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you for